students, hello everyone. Today we'll study a very important as well as very interesting chapter, that is evolution. So what is evolution? Evolution is an orderly change from one form to another. Evolutionary biology is the study of history of life forms on the earth. So what is actually evolution? Just take an example of your smartphones or any of the electronic device. Each and every year we'll be getting new updated version, new updated varieties of smartphones, right? Which will be always better than the previous version. And that happens every year, right? The technologies improve from one year to another, right? Next year. So the same way, evolution is also the change that occurs. But this change in an organism or in a life form is not sudden. Okay, it is not sudden, or it is not occurring during 1 year or 2 years. So it takes a lot of years, and there are many years, and there are many factors that influence a life form that will change during a certain period of time. Okay, so that different factors that cause the evolution, okay, and the evidences that show the evolution, and many different theories that defined evolution as well as defined how life existed. Everything we are going to study in this chapter. Origin of life. First we'll study how actually the life existed on earth. So we nowadays scientists are very curious to know how life existed in other planets, and how whether the other planets in the solar system have life or no. Is there any other planet which is similar to Earth, right? So is there any other planet where even human beings are there or no, right? So human beings are nowadays, the scientists, everybody is so curious to know about the life that is existing in other planets. So how have you ever questioned yourself how the life or originated on this earth? So origin of life. So there were many scientists approach to this concept to know how actually life originated. Some of them through their experiments, some of them through their hypothesis, right? So they tried to explain in their own ways how life might have existed or originated on this earth. So the Big Bang Theory. What is this Big Bang Theory? It states that the universe originated about 20 billion years ago by a singular huge explosion, right? So because of the explosion in the solar system, so because of the explosion, a single huge explosion, right? So because of that, different planets they formed, and different because of the huge explosion itself, the different planets have formed, and our earth is a planet which had all those requirements to exist, for the life to exist. So the life existed. So it's the Big Bang Theory states that the universe originated about 20 billion years ago by a singular huge explosion. So then the earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago. There was no atmosphere on the early earth. Water vapor, CH4, methane, carbon dioxide, ammonia released from the molten mass covered the surface. So what they say, so after the explosion, or when the earth was formed like about 4.5 billion years ago, there was no atmosphere on the earth. So now we have this different gases on the atmosphere, the plants, water, like, so this kind of atmosphere was not existing at that point. So actually what was there at that point? Only water vapor, methane, carbon dioxide or ammonium, they were released from the molten mass, right, covered, and that was covering the surface. The UV rays from the sun broke up water into hydrogen and oxygen again combined with ammonia and methane to form water and carbon dioxide. They say that, so first only water vapor was there, methane was there, carbon dioxide was there, and ammonia was there. Later what happened, the UV rays from the sun, they broke up this water into hydrogen and oxygen, and this oxygen which is formed, it then combined with ammonia and methane to form water and carbon dioxide, and the ozone layer, it was formed. As it cooled, the water vapor fell as a rain to form the oceans. So when the ozone layer was formed, and when it is cooled, the water vapor, it fell as a rain to form, and then the oceans were formed. Life appeared almost 4 billion years ago. So this is what the Big Bang theory states. And there are many other theories of origin of life. So how the life existed. So theory of abiogenesis, theory of biogenesis, theory of panspermia, theory of creationism, theory of chemical evolution. So what is theory of abiogenesis or spontaneous generation? So theory of abiogenesis states that the life existed from abiotic components, right? So abiotic components, that like it states that life comes out of decaying and rotting matter like straw, mud, etc., which are abiotic. Next, this abiotic theory, it was disproved by Louis Pasteur. How? He demonstrated that life comes only from pre-existing cell, right? So pre-existing life, that is, he showed that life did not come from killed yeast in a closed pre-sterilized flask, but in an open flask where the microbes will be present. So when everyone started when the abiogenesis theory was proposed, later Louis Pasteur, he disproved this theory. How? He just took one sterilized flask. Okay, sterilized flask means it will not be having any growth of microorganism. So in that sterilized closed flask, he observed that there was no life existed, no bacterial growth or nothing. Okay, so when the flask was not sterilized, when it was open, right, so the microorganisms which are present in the air, right, so the microorganisms, they contacted, and then the life actually started existing. So he said that there should be some pre-existing cell, there should be some pre-existing life, so that from this pre-existing life or cell only another cell can exist. So if one cell has to exist, there should be some pre-existing cell, right? So but what was the problem with the theory? So theory of biogenesis, it is proposed by Francisco Redi, Spallanzani and Louis Pasteur. So they all agreed that if the life has to exist, then it has to be from the pre-existing cell. So if you're existing by pre-existing parents, right? So the same way, if the plant has to exist, so it has to get existed. Seed should be from some existing parent. Okay, but how that pre-existing cell existed, right? So that first cell, how it got existed, that this theory did not explain, right? So that was the drawback of the biogenesis theory. So Louis Pasteur, Francisco Redi and Spallanzani, they proposed the biogenesis theory. Okay, so next comes the cosmic theory, that is theory of panspermia. So what this theory of panspermia says, it states that the units of life, spores, were transferred to different planets including the Earth. Okay, so they say that the spores, they were transferred to different planets and even including the Earth. That is why the life existed. okay, but that was also not convincing, so that was also not believed. Then the theory of special creation. So we all believe in God. So this theory of special creation says that living and non-living, everything was created by some supernatural power, that is God. Next comes the theory of chemical evolution, which was proposed by Oparin and Haldane. So what this theory of chemical evolution says? It states that the first life form was originated from non-living, inorganic and organic molecules such as methane, ammonium, water, sugar, proteins, nucleic acid. That is what this theory says. Theory of chemical evolution says that in a chemical, it may be inorganic or organic chemicals, first they existed, and from this inorganic, that means from abiotic components, the biotic components or the life, it got existed. Okay, so that means first ammonia and methane, water, sugars, protein, nucleic acid, all of them, they started existing first, and later the first cell, and later the organisms started existing. So this was theory of chemical evolution. So Urey Miller's experiment, he showed how the life might have existed through the organic or inorganic chemicals, okay, molecules. Harold Urey and Stanley Miller experimentally proved the theory of chemical evolution. They didn't just say it theoretically, they proved it through their experiment. They created a condition like that of primitive earth, that is high temperature, volcanic storms, reducing atmosphere with ammonium, methane, water, hydrogen, etc. So how we say the primitive earth, so earth, how it was at that point, no, whatever the earth's climatic condition was there, no, the same climatic condition they just created in their experimental setup, and they tried to prove how actually earth might have existed. Okay, so they made electrical discharge in a closed flask containing ammonium, methane, hydrogen and water vapor at 800 degrees Celsius. As a result, some amino acids are formed. So in similar experiment, others observed formation of sugar, nitrogen bases, pigments and fats. So what they did, the same as you can see here. See the experimental setup. So they did one experiment setup where there was boiling water which formed the water vapor, right? There was electrical spark and which was reacting with the gases that they have taken. Okay, so everything that was set up, and what they did when the electrical discharge sparks were given, then the same way the sugars, nitrogenous bases, pigments, fats, these molecules started forming. As we all know that the genetic material itself is the nitrogenous bases, right? So the nitrogenous bases obviously are very important for the genetic material. So genetic material, DNA, RNA, so if they are there, then obviously through the translation processes, right, how a new organism might be formed, right? So these actually they proved it that, so by different phenomena occurring in the earth, that made the earth to make the life existed, right? So chemical evolution theory, obviously it is little acceptable because they shown it through their experiment. Okay, so they created the same condition as the earth was there before, and they showed how the organic molecules, okay, required for the life, we require protein, nitrogenous bases, sugars, right? So all of them, how they are formed by the whatever disturbance that occurred during that time. Okay, so this was little accepted. The first non-cellular forms of life originated 3 billion years ago. So they were self-replicating metabolic capsule containing macromolecules like RNA, proteins, polysaccharides, etc. So first non-cellular forms first. Okay, so they originated 3 billion years ago, and then they were also self-replicating. That means they were capable of replicating by themselves. Okay, so they were containing macromolecules also, they were containing RNA, they were containing proteins and polysaccharides. So by the theory of chemical evolution, so it was almost it was acceptable that the life might have got existed from the abiogenesis, that is from the inorganic or organic components, and then formation of the life might have got existed. So evidences for evolution. So what are the evidences? So we know that evolution is nothing but we are studying how the life might have existed some billion or million years ago, right? How the evolution has started. So what are the factors that influence the evolution? So what are the evidences of evolution? First one is paleontological evolution, morphological and anatomical evidences, biogeographical evidences, which is adaptive radiation, biochemical evidences, embryological evidences for evolution by natural selection. So what are these? One by one we'll quickly see. So paleontological evolution, right? So paleontology is nothing but studying of fossils, right? Fossils. So the fossils are nothing but they are remnants of life forms found in the rocks, which is like earth crust. Okay, so they are written in the documents of evolution. So by the fossils, okay, that are formed, by that we can easily find out, okay, what kind of life existed so many years ago, right? So paleontological evidences, significance of fossils we can study. So why the paleontological evolution? So it is to study the phylogeny, evolutionary history of or race history. Example, how horse evolution, right? So how the horse got evoluted. Okay, so even the elephant, right? So this you can see by the significance of evolution. Next, to study the connecting link between the two groups of organisms. For example, Archaeopteryx. Say Archaeopteryx is one organism which has similar characters to reptiles also. It shows the characters to bird also. So some organisms, they will get evolution so in such a way that they show the connecting link between two of different types of species, right? So for example, Archaeopteryx. So this is called as connecting link between reptiles and birds. Okay, so to study about the extinct animals, example, dinosaurs. For example, we can also study by the paleontological evolution, like we'll dig the soil, we'll study the rocks, and we'll get whatever the evidence we get. Based on that, it is like very clear proof how the life might have existed. Okay, by studying these proofs, we can think that, okay, how the dinosaurs might have existed, how many years back they have existed, right? So it is very important to know what are the factors that made them to extinct. So that also we can study through the paleontological evolution. And also to study about the geological period by analyzing the fossils in the sedimentary rock layers. The study showed that the life forms varied over time and certain life forms are restricted to certain geological span. So we can, by this paleontological studies, we can easily make we can make the geological period, like in which period what kind of organisms have existed. Okay, so what will be the environmental condition, what might be the environmental condition factors at that point of time, so such kind of species were present at that point and how they got evoluted, right? So all those things we can study by the paleontological evidences. So next we'll know what are morphological and anatomical evidences. So you might be very familiar with these words now. So comparative anatomy and morphology shows that different forms of animals have some common structure features. This can be explained as homologous organs and homology, and analogous organs and analogy. So as you can see, the bone structure and the wing structure of different organisms. So what are homologous organs and homology? Homologous organs are organs having the fundamental similarity in the structure and origin but different functions. This phenomena is called as homology. So homology is nothing but where different organisms have same structure, okay, and origin, same structure. In the, for example, you are seeing the bone structure, it will be same bone structure but their function is different, right? So that is called as homology or homologous organs. So example, human hand as well as whale's flippers, bat's wing and cheetah's foot. So all these are four limbs which are having different functions, okay. Man uses it for eating and for doing his work, right? So cheetah uses it for hunting. It is really different phenomena, right? And whale it uses for swimming, and bat it uses for flying, right? So but they all are having similar structure but they all are having different functions, their own different functions. So homology, homo means same structure, same organs which are similar in structure but they are different in functions, which we call it as divergent evolution. Because of the evolution, the function of these organs changed, so they have different functions. So functions but similar anatomical structures such as bones. So homology is seen even in the heart as well as brain, etc., right? So homology in plants also you can see thorns and tendrils of bougainvillea and cucurbita. You can see the homology, right? So as you can see here, thorn as well as tendril, right? So they have their different functions, though they are modifications but they are different functions, right? So origin of homologous organ is due to divergent evolution. As I said, divergent evolution is evolution by which related species become lesser similar to survive and adopt different environmental conditions, right? So homology indicates common ancestry, okay. So but because and it also shows the divergent evolution, like related species will be there but when they start adopting to their different environment, no, the process of adoption make the evolution and make these organs, homologous organs, to function differently according to their adoption, right? So this we call it as homologous organs. So what are analogous organs? Analogous organs andre organs having similar function but different structure and origin. This phenomena is called analogy, right? So they are having the similar function, structure is different. So if you consider this structure is completely different, but they both are having the same function, is to fly, right? So wing structure may be different but they are having the same function, that is used for the same purpose, that is to fly. Then we call it as analogous organs or analogy. They might be having different structure but their function is same. So wings of insects which are formed of thin flap of chitin, and wings of birds it is modified into four limbs, right? And even examples is eyes of octopus which is made up of retina from skin, as well as mammals which is made up from retina from embryonic brain. But we all have the eyes to see, right? So even having the wings even of different, made up of different different materials, then also the function is to fly, right? So the same, they might be different in structure, different in composition, but their function is same. Then we call it as analogous organs. Another example you can see, flippers of penguin as well as flippers of dolphin, right? They might be different in structure, but their function is same. Okay, so analogous organs we can also see in example like sweet potato, which is modified root. Okay, so and potato, which is modified stem, but both are storage, right? So they store food. Okay, so they both have the same function, right? They might be different, but they have the same function. So in even some other example, trachea of insect from which is made from ectoderm, and lungs of vertebrates which is made from endoderm. So whether it is ectoderm or endoderm, so they are having the same purpose or same function. So analogous organs origin is due to the convergent evolution. Origin of analogous organ is due to convergent evolution. So divergent evolution comes in homologous organs and convergent evolution comes in analogous organs. As we have seen through different examples, homologous organs, the organs are same structure, same composition, but they are having different function. Homo means same structure, but they are having different functions. Then the function, due to function, the adaptability, the evolution is divergent, the function is diverging, they are having different functions. Analogous organs are different functions, right? They are having different different structures, but they are having same function. That means convergent. They all have same function, but they are having different structures, right? So convergent evolution is analogous organs, even though their structure and composition is different, but their function is same. Then we call it as convergent evolution. Is the evolution by which unrelated species, even though their species are unrelated, they become more similar to survive and adapt to similar environmental conditions. Okay, so that is convergent evolution. You can see the example, fish, land reptiles, land mammals are all unrelated, but they evolve to more similar forms, right? So that you can see here. Okay, so land mammals, land reptiles, fishes, so when they are evolving, they become more function. So this brings the convergent evolution. So biochemical evidences. So we have seen morphological and anatomical evidences, morphology and anatomy, right? So that from that also we can study how the organisms have got evoluted. By studying their morphological and anatomical structures, we can see how this organism might have got existed. Okay, so now biochemical evidences. Organisms show similarities in the proteins, genes and other biomolecules and metabolism. So by studying their genes, their proteins and biomolecules and even the metabolism, we can study how it is similar to another species, right? So how two different species, two different organisms can be similar. Okay, so by studying the DNA, RNA, proteins, right? So by studying the genes, other biomolecules, we can know how the organisms can be related to each other. So it also indicates the common ancestry, right? Who was the common ancestor and how we got evoluted. Okay. Next is biogeographical evidences, so which is very important. Adaptive radiation. What is adaptive radiation will be definitely asked. So adaptive radiation is evolution. It occurs by adaptation. So it is the evolution of different species in a geographical area starting from a point. So it is mainly by the observation by Darwin. So we call it as Darwin's finches in the Galapagos Island. So when Darwin observed the different finches in the birds in the Galapagos Island, so he proposed this adaptive radiation. Okay, so what is this? So we can also see in Australian marsupial radiation, adaptive radiation. So what is adaptive radiation? So adaptive radiation you can easily learn through this picture. So when the birds, if they are growing in some geographical areas, if they are by in that geographical area, what kind of food they are always consuming, in which kind of seeds or food is grown in that area, accordingly their finches, their beaks, their finches are being adopted, right? So if they have to eat the very tough shells, then they have to have different type of finches. Okay, so if they have to depend on the seeds which are very which they have to take and which they have to eat, then the finches are different, right? So if they have to cut and eat, then the finches will be different. So the different geographical area, so different food will be provided, and based on the food that is provided there, the finches have got adopted, and there is a different in the shape of the finches there. So he observed that, and he noticed that ಯಾವ geographical area ಒಳಗ ಯಾವ್ದು ಫುಡ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಫುಡ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಆ ಫುಡ್ಡಿಗೆ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಟು ಸರ್ವೈವ್ ಆ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಅದೇ ಜಿಯೋಗ್ರಫಿಕಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಒಳಗೆ ಬೆಳೆಯುವಂಥ ಫುಡ್ ಅಥವಾ ಸೀಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟೆಡ್. ಸೊ ಎವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಅದರದ್ದು that organ will change, right? So that was observed in finches, in different birds, right? So by the Darwin. So by that also you can see what is how the adaptive radiation has occurred, and even you can see based on different organisms are having different adaptability, so based on what kind of food they are getting there. Okay, so you can also see placental mammals in Australia, right? So all of them are adapted to that particular geographical region. ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಆ ಜಿಯೋಗ್ರಫಿಕಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಫುಡ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲೈಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೇ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಆಗುವಷ್ಟಾಗೇ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಮಾರ್ಫಾಲಜಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟಬಿಲಿಟಿ ನಮಗೆ ಅದರದ್ದು ಅವ್ರ ಮಾರ್ಫಾಲಜಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವು ಹೇಗಿರ್ತವೆ, ದೇ ಆರ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್, ಅದನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರೊಳಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೈತಿ ಹೌ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಾಟ್ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಏರಿಯಾ. Okay, so when more than one adaptive radiation is appeared in isolated geographical area, so more than one adaptive radiation ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ತು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಜಿಯೋಗ್ರಫಿಕಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಅದೇ ಮೋರ್ ದೆನ್ ಒನ್ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟಿವ್ ರೇಡಿಯೇಷನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕರೆ ಆಬ್ವಿಯಸ್ಲಿ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ವಿಲ್ ಶೋ ದಿ ಸೇಮ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಆಲ್ ದ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟಿವ್ ರೇಡಿಯೇಷನ್ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ performing the same function by the organisms, leading to convergent evolution. For example, Australian marsupials and placental mammals. So placental mammals, they are mole here, marsupial mole, anteater, numband anteater. So they are having the different adaptability, but they are having the same function. Okay, so different examples you can see. Next we have seen biogeographical evidences. Next is embryological evidences. It was proposed by Ernst Haeckel. So what he said, he observed that vertebrate embryos have common features that are absent in adult. For example, all vertebrate embryo, including human, develop a vestigial gill slits just behind the head, but it is functional only in the fish but are not found in the adult vertebrates. As you can see, it is the embryo, right? So it is of fish, this is of reptile, this is of bird, and this is of human. So obviously all of them looks different, looks very similar, but the gill slits are present in all of them, right? And it is only, and he says that it is called vestigial because it is not working in adults, okay, but it is present in the embryonic stage. So he says that by the embryos also we can study how we have got evoluted. Okay, it is seen in the embryonic stage, but it is not seen in the adult stage. It is only seen as a not using organ or vestigial gill slits, right? So vestigial organs, it is seen. Vestigial organ antandre we are not using the gills, right? That is why it is called as vestigial, right? So which is not using. So vestigial gills, they are not working, they are not found in the adult stage, but they are found in the embryonic stage, he says. But however, Carl Ernst von Baer rejected this proposal. Okay, why he rejected? He noted that embryos never pass through the adult stages of other animals. So embryos will not pass through the adult stages of other animals. So it was not accepted. Okay, so next, evidences for evolution by natural selection. So natural selection is the process by which the organisms that are best suited for their environment survive and reproduce. Some examples are given below. For example, like what is natural selection? There will be change in the environment, okay, as time passes. Okay, so there will be obviously climatic changes, there will be change in the temperature, atmospheric pressure and everything. Okay, which organism will be adopting, which has the capacity to fit to the environment? Nature selects only those organisms. Only those organisms can survive. So one example you can see here, by the industrial melanism. Okay, so there are the examples of natural selection by anthropogenic action, evolution due to even human activities also. So development of resistant varieties in the organism against, even after putting so many herbicides, insecticides, pesticides also, there will be the organisms will get adopted to those pesticides also, then also they survive. So that is one example. So industrial melanism is one more example. Okay, so what is industrial melanism? In England, that is before industrialization, that is 1850, there were more white-winged moths. Okay, so but on the tree than the dark winged or melanized moths. Okay, so what after industrialization, that is 1920, because of the dust, because of the smoke, more dark winged moths and less white winged moths was seen. Okay, so what happened actually? The reason was, before industrialization there was thick growth of white colored lichen which covered the trees. Okay, lichens only grow in very clean area, pure, which is like pure area, which there is no pollution. Where there is no pollution, then only the lichens will grow. That is why we call lichens as pollution indicators, right? So before industrialization, there was lichen grown, and that is why to get hidden from the predators, the moths were having white color, so that they can easily hide here on the surface background, right? But after industrialization, what happens? Because of the more pollution, right, more carbon, more pollution, even the lichens got extinct, or there was no lichen present there. Okay, because of the darker background, white winged moths were not seen. Why? The tree trunk became dark due to the industrial smoke and soot. So no lichen. So after the industrialization, what happens? There was no lichen which is grown. So under this condition, white moth did not survive, because if the white moth is, even if it is hiding from the predator can easily see the white moth. It cannot see the dark moth, because dark moth has got adopted to the darker bark of the tree, right? But white moth has got adopted to the lichen. So now lichen is not there. Lichen has got killed because of after industrialization. It is not there. So the predators, they mainly pick the white moth, because dark moths can easily mimic the background after industrialization. So under this condition, white-winged moth did not survive because the predators identified them easily. Dark-winged moths survive because the suitable dark background, that is predators, could not identify them. So before industrialization, because of the lichens present on the bark, dark winged moth could not survive because they can be easily detected. But after industrialization, white moth did not survive. So this is how the nature selects. Okay, even though there is environmental changes, even though there is any kind of change that is present in the surrounding, so how the adaptability is seen, based on that the nature selects. Okay, so nature selects the one which is fit to survive in that situation. Okay, so these are some of the evidences of evolution. So we have seen so many evidences. So these evidences will help us to know what are the different theories that are proposed to understand the evolution, and also we can see how the evolution has occurred, right? So we have seen paleontological evolution, morphological evidences, right? So biogeographical evidences because of the geographical area, chemical evidences, biochemical evidences, embryological evidences, and evolution by natural selection. So we will hope you enjoyed the class, hope it was interesting. So these are little in depth, we went to study some examples, but this is very important, adaptive radiation. Okay, so what are the different, this natural selection, okay, Miller's experiment sorry, not killer, Miller's experiment. So all of them are very important from this chapter. So next class we'll study the theories of biological evolution, right? So in the next class we can study, in the next video probably we'll upload it soon, so that there will study what are the theories of biological evolution. So it is very easy, interesting, so don't skip the topic, because even if you listen it once also, if you go through it once also, you'll be easy to attempt. It will be very easy for you to attempt in the exam. So thank you for